I'm sure many fans of the channel know about my love for the Tensura and Mushoku Tensei series because of the amazing writing and world building for both series, and for that reason many have suggested that I should watch Overlord because it has some similarities. So with season 4 of Overlord returning in summer 2022, I thought it was a good time to finally watch it. So as the title suggests, in this video I'll be doing a recap for all 3 seasons and I'll also be throwing in some of my opinions regarding them as well. With that said, let's start with the recap of season 1. The series starts with Yggdrasil, a popular DMMO-RPG that is set to shut down after 12 years of service. We see Momonga, the guildmaster of AINZ, one of the strongest guilds in the game, conversing with Hiro, one of the guild members. But eventually Hiro has to leave because of work, so Momonga was left alone. He is saddened by this but realized that everyone has a life of their own, so he decides to wait for the game to shut down inside the throne room of the Great Tomb of Nazarick. And because the game was about to shut down anyways, Momonga decides to modify the setting of Albedo with the staff of AINZ so that she would become madly in love with him. However, when it was time for the server to shut down, Momonga was not kicked out from the game and he realized none of the game functions were accessible. But that wasn't all, because the NPCs that were with him have apparently acquired sentience as well. A confused Momonga then orders SEBAS to survey the outside area of Nazarick, while Albedo was ordered to assemble the floor guardians on the amphitheater on the 6th floor. In the amphitheater, we are first introduced to the guardians on the 6th floor, Ora Bella Fiora and Mare Bello Fiore. Later, we are introduced to the other floor guardians as well: Shoutier Bloodfallen, guardian of the 1st to 3rd floor, Cocytus, guardian of the 5th floor, Demiurge, guardian of the 7th floor, and finally Albedo, the overseer of the floor guardians. After receiving the report from SEBAS, Momonga confirmed that Nazarick has indeed been transported to a new world, and wanting to see the outside surroundings for himself, he left the amphitheater. However, before he went outside, he was stopped by Demiurge, who insisted on following him. The two went outside and Momonga was amazed by the beauty of the new world. He also jokingly suggested on taking over the world, which causes Demiurge to misunderstand his intentions. As that was happening, we are shown a group of soldiers led by Gazestronov patrolling the area while the Sunlight Scripture were observing them. So going back to Nazarick, Momonga is using the mirror of remote viewing to survey the areas around them, and he discovered Kane village being attacked by knights. He simply dismissed the village at first, but after seeing SEBAS, he was reminded of Touch Me, one of the original founders of the guild, so he decided to save the villagers as a way to repay his debt to Touch Me. He also wanted to use this as a chance to test out his strength against the local inhabitants of the new world. So he opened a portal and teleported to the outskirts of the village where he saved Henry and Namu Ahmed. Seeing the reaction of the two of them, Momonga decides to disguise himself with a mask and introduces himself as AINZ. He was later joined by a fully armored Albedo as well, and after saving the villagers, he was able to acquire some gold and information about the new world from the village chief. We then see Gazef's group arriving and he thanked AINZ for saving the village. However, the Sunlight Scripture soon surrounded the village and their target was apparently Gazef. Gazef decides to leave in order to distract the enemy, but before he left, AINZ gave him a parting gift and promised to protect the village out of respect for him. Gazef was able to defeat some of the summoned angels, but he was soon overwhelmed by the magic, and just as Negan was about to finish him off, AINZ saved him and his troops. AINZ confronted the Sunlight Scripture and easily defeated all the summoned angels. The entire Sunlight Scripture was then killed and Momonga returned to Nazarick with Albedo. He decides to change his name to AINZ and orders his subordinates to spread his name to the new world so that other players will be able to find him. But funny enough, after he left the throne room, the rest of his subordinates misunderstood his words again and prepares to make plans to help AINZ take over the world. So moving on, we see Albedo delivering her reports to AINZ and Shoutier arriving later to inform him about her departure with SEBAS for a mission. We then see AINZ along with NARBERAL arriving in the fortress city of Irantel as adventurers going by the name of Momon and Nabe. They encounter some trouble at the inn, and this caused Momon to accidentally give an adventurer named Britta one of the red potions from Yggdrasil. Britta then brought the potion to the Barrier workshop and she found out it's an extremely rare potion. Lizzie Barrier asked her grandson MITHRIL to search for Momon and find out who made the red potion. In the Adventurers Guild, Momon and Nabe were approached by the adventurer group Source of Darkness, who offered them a job. Momon accepted their offer, and when they were about to leave, they were stopped by MITHRIL, who requested for Momon to escort him to Kane village. Now on their journey to Kane village, they are attacked by a large group of goblins and ogres, but the others soon realize that Momon and Nabe are no ordinary adventurers. Meanwhile, back in the Irantel communal cemetery, we see Clementine visiting Khajiit and she shows him the Crown of Wisdom. It's revealed that Khajiit wishes to take over the city with an undead army and their target was to capture Nephira. So going back to Momon's group, they eventually arrive at Kane village and we see Henry again, but this time she is accompanied by goblin troops that she summoned using the horn that AINZ had gave her. Henry then tells NARBERAL what had happened to the village and he was able to conclude that AINZ is disguising himself as the adventurer Momon. NARBERAL then tells AINZ the truth and promised to keep his identity a secret. They later went into the Great Forest to gather herbs and AINZ was interested in the so-called wise king of the forest. He decided to tame it but was soon disappointed when he found out that it was just a giant hamster. So after completing NARBERAL's request, they returned to Irantal and the Source of Darkness accompanied NARBERAL back to his home while Momon and NARBERAL went to register Hamusuke at the Adventurers Guild. When NARBERAL returned home, Clementine managed to capture him and kill the Source of Darkness. When Momon followed Lizzie back to her home, they found the Source of Darkness dead and her grandson missing. Lizzie was forced to hire Momon to rescue him and Momon, with the help of NARBERAL, were able to find his location. They quickly arrived at the cemetery and Momon left NARBERAL to deal with Kajit while he and Clementine took their battle elsewhere. Kajit proceeded to summon 2 skeleton dragons against NARBERAL and was confident that she would not be able to defeat him. But after hearing AINZ declared to use the true powers of Nazarick, she was no longer fighting as NARBERAL but instead NARBERAL Gamma, and she easily destroyed both the dragons and Kajit with a 7-tier spell. Meanwhile, with the fight between Momon and Clementine, he continues to not fight seriously and furious by his attitude, she charges at him, stabbing both his eyes. But it had no effect and Momon proceeded to torment her by slowly crushing her body. He then revealed his true form and killed her with his hug of death. Momon was able to rescue NARBERAL and return to the city victorious. For resolving the cemetery incident, he was promoted to the MITHRIL rank much to his disappointment, but he is still content as long as everyone spread his heroic name across the land. AINZ, remembering that ALBEDO called for him, contacted her and learned that Sheltier Bloodfallen had rebelled against them. This actually happened during her mission as we see SEBAS and Solution Epsilon posing as nobles from the Baharut Empire in Irantal. They are helping Sheltier to lure out humans who are capable of using martial arts, so they hire Zack, a human that they know will sell them out to a mercenary group. So during a carriage ride to Re-Estes, SEBAS and Solution were joined by Sheltier, but when they were stopped by the Death Spreading Brigade, Sheltier proceeded to kill all of them. Because SEBAS and Solution had a different mission from Sheltier, so they left while she looked for the bandits' hideout. Inside the hideout, Sheltier meets Blaine UNGLAUS and completely breaks his pride as a warrior, causing him to flee in terror. She then transforms into a true vampire form and massacres the rest of the bandits. Outside the base, she censors a group of adventurers, which she also slaughters except for Brita, who was saved thanks to the red potion given to her by Momon. After she acquires some information from Brita, she decides to spare her and she learned that one of the adventurers managed to escape. Sheltier chased after the adventurer with her familiars, but when they were immediately killed, she decides to investigate. She would encounter a new group of people waiting for her, but as soon as she attacked, an old lady unleashed a dragon of light with a dress at Sheltier. Sheltier was hit by the light and before her mind was taken over, she managed to throw a final attack that kills the wielder of the dress as well as her bodyguard. Now back in the present, we are in the throne room of Nazarick where AINZ is observing the now motionless Sheltier. He then receives a message from NARBERAL reporting that he has been summoned by the Irantal Adventurers Guild who has become aware of Sheltier. Back in Irantal, AINZ, now in his Momon disguise, is discussing the vampire matter with the Guildmaster and 3 other MITHRIL rank adventurer teams. AINZ, wishing to handle the matter himself, lies about Sheltier and promised to defeat her alone. The others accepted his offer except for Ikvash, one of the MITHRIL adventurers present. So Momon allowed his group to join, but before they reached Sheltier's location, Ikvash and his group were killed by Momon. ALBEDO and AINZ went to Sheltier's location and he tried to use the magic ring Shooting Star, hoping it would be able to undo the spell. However, the magic ring failed and it causes AINZ to become furious because he realized that it was a war item that had placed the mind control on Sheltier. He, along with ALBEDO, quickly returned to Nazarick and they entered the treasury with Yuri Alpha. Inside, we will meet Pandora's actor, the area guardian of the treasury and one of the NPCs created by AINZ. Afterwards, AINZ and ALBEDO enters the mausoleum where golem statues for each of the supreme beings are being kept. He soon explains his intentions to ALBEDO and takes responsibility for Sheltier alone because he doesn't want to see them killing each other. After getting what he needs, AINZ is accompanied by Aure and Mare, who are also equipped with world items, back to Sheltier's location. The others were ordered to stay behind in Nazarick and Demirouge is stopped by ALBEDO and Cocytus from interfering with the battle. Before AINZ confronted Sheltier, he prepared all his magic and threat spells and readied his super tier magic Fallen Down. He fired the super tier magic on Sheltier and the damage caused her to awaken from her standby mode, donning her Valkyrie armor and weapon Spud Lance. They both fought and the battle seemed like it's in Sheltier's favor, but AINZ was able to counter her using his experience and deception. After successfully tricking Sheltier into using her trump card and revealing everything has been going according to his plan, she started to panic and endlessly attacked him. That's when AINZ revealed that he is fighting with the strength of all 41 supreme beings, fighting her with several of their weapons and eventually activating his super tier magic again to disintegrate Sheltier. After defeating her, AINZ returns to Nazarick and was able to successfully resurrect her, but she is unable to recall any memories. So with that, AINZ finally realized that there are world items and threats that could harm Nazarick and his subordinates, so he declared that from now on they will start to increase their defense and strengthen their power to prevent that from happening again. Moving on, we are shown the people behind the incident with Sheltier, and we also see MITHRIL and Lizzie moving to Carte village. Meanwhile, somewhere in Reastis, Solution and SEBAS have taken residence inside the royal capital. Additionally, Gaziev would discover a broken brain in the alleys of Reastis. Finally, we see Momo after defeating the vampire has now been promoted to the Adamantine rank. Season 1 then ends with him ordering Sheltier to mobilize Gargantua and Victim along with the other Floor Guardians. That's basically it for the recap, so now I want to give some of my opinions on Season 1. Honestly, after binging the entire series, and for a 2015 anime, it's still better than most of the isekais we get right now. Yeah, sure, by today's standard, the gimmick is probably overdone, but it's still really entertaining to watch, and I think what made me like this anime the most was the fact that it sticks to the plot while keeping it interesting. It has decent humor, stunning visuals for a 2015 anime, nice fighting scenes with necessary violence when needed, and some really interesting characters. Also, as of making this video, I have not read the light novel, so I am not sure how faithful the adaptation is, but overall I definitely enjoy immersing myself in the settings, atmosphere, plots, and details of Overlord. But anyways, that's it for this Season 1 recap, and I'll be doing a follow-up video on Season 2 and 3 soon, so be sure to check them out when I release them. Also, do you want to see more Overlord content? If you do, feel free to leave a like or comment down below on what you want to see. Don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell for more content like this in the future. Thanks for watching, and as always, stay safe everyone.